Hello, I think we're okay. We'll see whoever ends up joining the chat in due course. But hello. This is obviously the first video I've done post the abysmal end to the 2023-24 championship season for Sunderland. But I thought I'd just do a quick video in reacting to the retained list. Just do a quick live stream about it, maybe half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, depending on what interaction I get in the comments. But yeah, thanks very much to the two people so far who are watching. Obviously, get yourselves in the comments just to see how everybody is. Obviously, Sunderland can't directly ruin weekends over the next couple of weeks. We've just got England at the Euros to do it, so that's going to be fun times, isn't it? But yeah, obviously, for those of you who don't know, the retained list from hey Jacob, I believe your name is Yorkshire Macam. All right, mate. Yeah, the retain list came out. The retain list came out just over an hour ago. So I thought, well, sod it. Why not? Let's do a reaction to it and let's just quickly go through it and just talk about what my thoughts are on the retain list, and then we'll obviously then start to move towards transfers, and obviously getting a head coach would be nice. But yeah, thanks, Jacob. I am doing all right, mate. Hopefully you yourself are doing well. Let's have a quick look. I'll see if I can find the retain list on here. Here we go. Yeah, 2024-25. The retained list is confirmed. Just quickly see if there's any more in the chat. Yeah, Jacob. His pal. Jacob is my Bruce Wayne, and Yorkshire Mac is like Batman. Yeah, I love the nerd reference. I love the nerd reference. You kind of complain with that, can you? Well, one transfer that I did say I would like Sunderland to go for is going to Stoke. Victor Johansson. I wouldn't have minded if we got big money for Pato if we ended up getting Victor Johansson. But as Johansson's going to Stoke, I think we probably do need to keep Pato unless we can find a good option elsewhere. All right then. So I'll quickly go through, just read the statement out with the retain list, and then we'll just discuss it from there. Let's have a look. Liam Rosenior would not be a bad shout as our next head coach. I wasn't at all for it, and then I read a thread from a journalist called Ethan Todd. He's a really, really good lad on Twitter. We interact in a group chat quite regularly, and he was talking about the benefits of having Liam Rosenior be appointed as Sunderland's new head coach. So let's see how this ends up going. But anyway, let's read the retain list. So the article says, Sunderland's AFC's retain list has been submitted, confirming the departure of several senior and academy players. And believe me, there is quite a lot. After moving to the Stadium of Light in July 2021 and making 67 appearances in red and white, Corey Evans will leave the club this summer. The midfielder captained Sunderland throughout an unforgettable run at the end of the 2001-22 season, which culminated in victory at Wembley Stadium and promotion to the Sky Bet Championship. A popular figure within the dressing room and on the terraces, Evans bids farewell, having played an important role in the club's progression throughout the past 3 seasons. Academy Alike graduates Ellis Taylor and Jack Diamond will also depart this summer, with Bradley Dack's time on Wearside also coming to an end. Lowe's Mason Burstow and Callum Styles have returned to their parent clubs, with SCFC retaining an option to sign Styles permanently. As of yet, I don't think that's been activated. I think we've got a little bit of time to decide if we want to activate that or not. Outside of the men's senior squad, the club has also confirmed that Ben Creamer, Callum Wilson, Connor Pye, Daniel Abolo, Harry Gardner, Jaden Sekete. Oh my God, why has everyone got such unpronounceable names again? Joe Ryder, Calum Beatty, Michael Spellman, and Thomas Chiaibi. See, I'm terrible at this. Will depart the academy this summer. All at Sunderland AFC would like to thank our departing players and professionalism and commitment, and we wish them well for the future. So I'll go through the retain list in a moment, as in to go through who's actually staying. But that's the main bulk of the statement. Steven says Dan Cameron is a big goalkeeper. Do we think he will get a loan next season? Where's he at again? He can't be one of the academy lads, surely. Hang on. I'm trying to have a look. Oh, it's gone through alphabetical order. No. Hang on. Oh, Daniel Cameron, sorry. New professional contract offered out of contract. So right. Sorry, Stephen, ignore me. I've just read it properly. Yeah. Possibly. Maybe there is, but that's probably the next logical step for someone like that. If you're doing well in the academy, then you have to make sure that you're ready for first team level, don't you? And obviously a loan to a lower league side would be beneficial. Let's have a look. Hey Patrick, mate. Hi Michael, mate. Hopefully you are doing well. Well, now that Sunderland aren't ruining me weekend for a few weeks, yes, I'm actually not doing too badly. I'm just kind of enjoying the midst of the playoffs now, even though it feels a bit weird not being involved in them. And I still stand by the squad we had should have been much closer to being involved in them, regardless of the age or the experience thing. But yeah, I'm not doing too bad. How are you doing? Hopefully, everyone is doing all right, by the way, who is watching. As I said, this was just completely last minute live streams. I thought, as what a lot of my live streams tend to be, just to waffle on for a little bit and just talk about it. So, um, let's go through the actual retain list themselves. We'll start with the academy, actually. So, the academy retain list, and again, apologies in advance that I'm going to butcher some of these names. Aaron Chung, Adam Richardson, Ben Crompton, Ben Middlemass, yeah. Caden Kelly, Ethan Moore, Jaden Jones, Ben Kinden, Ben Metcalf, Daniel Parker, Harrison Jones, Jack Whitaker, Jake Walters, Kalechby Chibuze, I think he's the former Leicester lad, if I'm right. Marshall Burke, Matthew Young, Oliver Bainbridge, Reese Walsh, Tommy Watson, Timur Titeroff, I don't know, Trey Ogunsai, see, I hate these names, and Zach Johnson. So that's the academy one. The men's team, the senior team, senior for us is probably 22. The retain list for the men's team, Abdullah Bar, so this is in alphabetical order, obviously. Abdullah Bar, Adil Aushish, Aji Elise, Alex Bass, Anthony Patterson, Chris Rigg, Dan Ballard, Dan Neal, Dennis Sirkin, Eliza Mienda, Elliot Embleton, Jack Clark, Jay Matete, Jensen Sealed, Jewison Bennett, Joe Bellingham, Joe Anderson, Leo Yelder, Lewis Himia, Luke O'Nine, Nathan Bishop, Nazari Rusian, Nectar Triantis, Niall Huggins, Patrick Roberts, Pierre Equa, Romain Mundell, Timothy Pembele, and Trey Hume. So there you go. That's pretty much what we're going to end up having. So the key bits that are supposed to go back through the statement and to actually look at it. The main bits of the statement are what was it? So first of all, let's go through the departures one by one. So first of all, Corey Evans. Corey Evans is a weird one because we've definitely missed his experience over the last. Even I'm someone who gets sick of the experience thing being thrown around constantly. But even I admit, in the midfield, I think we are missing a lot of experience, and I do think Corey Evans is a big factor in that. I do think that we have missed him a lot over the last 18 months. I know obviously he made a couple of sporadic appearances at the back end of last season, but the challenge with Corey Evans was, is he going to be the same player that he was? And if he is, how often is he going to be fit? That's the key issue. If we think we can get someone else who's experienced in the midfield, who we can count on to deliver the same level of output that Evans was able to, but be fit much more consistently, then that's fair enough. Obviously, the other thing is that we've now lost two more experienced players in Evans and Dak. So, but Evans in itself, bit sad that he's going, but I think I'm not altogether surprised. I do think it was definitely I think if I had to pinpoint whether to keep him or not, I probably would have let him go. But again, the caveat is we need someone else in there in the middle of the park in the holding role like he does, who has got a number of appearances under his belt. And so I think he leaves with best wishes. And remember, with Corey Evans, he wasn't exactly a fan favourite when we first started. When he first came to Sunderland, it took him a few months to really start to win fans over. And towards the back end of the League One season, 21-22 under Alex Neil, he really started to come into his own and really start to show his worth to the team. And even at the point where the first half of last season, or 22-23 now, I guess, that first half of that season, he was actually quite an important figure in the team. And albeit when we got into the playoffs under Mowbray, we didn't miss Evans as much as what we thought we would. I think this season in patches, we have definitely missed him. Yorkshire Malcolm, I wonder who Hull's next manager will be. Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, they're not going to be the only ones looking for a head coach. Likewise, it looks like we're going to be looking for one. And it looks like Norwich are going to be as well, because the reports after the last night's humiliation at Leeds that Daniel Farker seemed set to be dismissed at Norwich, which to a lot of people is a surprise. But to me, having talked to a couple of Norwich fans quite regularly across the season, it's not a surprise to me that Wagner's losing his job. Hang on, let's have a look. One. Hello, Dean. How are you doing, mate? Let's have a look. So the next comment. Who's the next one that we were looking at? Right, Bradley Dack. Here's the next one. Get rid. Simple as that. Get rid. I actually think as a player, he's not a bad player, But the problem has been that he's just when he has been playing, he's just looked a bit on the leaner side, which I know says a lot coming from me, but he looks a bit on the leaner side of things, and he just looks like it just doesn't look like he was going to be consistently fit. And I don't, and obviously we hear different reports of what wages he's meant to be on and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, Bradley Dack was never going to really stay along. I mean, in hindsight, it would have been nicer to have kept Alex Pritchard and let Bradley Dack go, but Pritchard, the best less said about that, the better at the moment. But with Dak, yeah, I completely agree. It was absolutely the right decision to get rid. I mean, he was sort of hogging up the wages, and the wages that we're going to lose with Dak going means that we can get someone else in who hopefully will contribute a lot more regularly to a good level. And we've got 22 people watching so far, or around 20 people, and 10 likes. If you hit the like button, that would be absolutely amazing. The next one, right? Let's wait. So the next one is Ellis Taylor. Yeah, this is a weird one. I don't have as much to say on Ellis Taylor. I think Ellis Taylor, from what I've heard, has been um, Ellis Taylor for me has been one that has been really really good apparently in the under 23s or in the academy level. Um, but I would imagine that he's probably not going to be good enough for first team level. Otherwise, I think he would have made an appearance by now. I believe we got him from Hartlepool, if I remember rightly. Ellis Taylor. So again, he's probably someone who is gonna possibly thrive in the lower divisions, but for where Sunderland should be wanting to get to next season, which is at least a top six finish, I know some fans will think that's unrealistic. I disagree. I don't think it is. But yeah, I think with Ellis Taylor, he probably needs to have a good drop down to the lower divisions and restart his career that way. But yeah, was never going to be good enough for the first team, but apparently look good for the 23, so that's something, I guess. And the next one, I'll talk about Jack Diamond, and then we'll talk about the two loans in a minute. Jack Diamond is the next one. Hello, Mason. By the way, I will get your comments in a moment. But when it comes to Jack Diamond, I think obviously he's had something else on his mind off the pitch for the last couple of years. So obviously, more importantly, Jack Diamond has. We're actually able to talk about Jack Diamond again in a football sense. So first of all, hopefully Jack is okay after what he's had to go through. But from a footballing perspective, I think this is the right call. I think Jack Diamond, I know people could argue he hasn't had a chance in the Championship, but even when we played in League One, I wasn't really convinced with Jack Diamond. I think that he's probably someone who's a solid mid. I know he's obviously Carlisle have just been relegated, but he's probably a solid mid-table League One player or a solid League One player for a team that isn't expecting to go up. But you never know. He might go back to Carlisle again for League Two because I don't know how much Jack Diamond would want to stay in the area of the Northeast. And although Carlisle's a little bit out there in comparison to Sunderland, um, I actually don't think that would be a bad move for him if he went there to go for League Two, and then we'll see what ends up happening with that one. But as far as Jack Diamond goes, I mean, I remember the lockdown season, he broke through into the first team and had a couple of little decent moments. The standout one was when he scored in the 4-0 win over Lincoln. But yeah, so I think from a lower league perspective, it's not a bad acquisition. But I think that obviously it was the right call. From where Sunderland want to get to, I think he wasn't going to be along for the ride. Right, I'll talk about the two loanies in a minute. Let's quickly go through some more of the comments. Mason Jones, Tim Walter is going to be Hull manager. Oh yeah, so you were saying you're a Hull fan. Okay, fair enough then. I'll confess I know absolutely nothing about. I was going to say Tim Hortons there for a minute. Tim Walter, I know naught about him. But you might know more than me. He's getting announced soon. I'm a Hull fan and I have a soft spot for Sunderland. If you get Rossini, you'll play good football. He plays out from the back. That's interesting one, that, because I've heard a couple of people saying that apparently Rossini's football is quite cautious. But again, this is just from the outside. I don't know how true that is. But if you've watched yourselves regularly, Mason, you'll know more than I will. I wasn't as convinced. I mean, I might do a video on the head coaches in the coming. I might quickly touch on the head coach at the end of this stream, actually. Very quickly as well, by the way, before I forget. In the next couple of, if you remember last summer, I did a couple of videos about 5 players I would like Sunderland to let go, and 5 players I would like us to sign. So if you want me to do those videos again, then let me know in the live chat here. But it's something I may end up doing regardless. But I just want to know what people think about it, because it's obviously, when you're getting into the off season now, it's a bit difficult in terms of content to keep going. Obviously, you've got other YouTubers who do more rumor based things, and to be fair, they obviously do well in those videos. I don't personally like to do rumor videos because I like to talk about things that are more substantial. But that's not saying the other YouTubers don't, because a lot of people do the rumor stuff. I'm just in the minority. I just don't particularly like doing it. Let's quickly keep going. Mason Jules. Yes, let's have a look. Right. Yeah, he can't believe we sacked him. This is Liam Rossini he's on about. I thought I was in the wrong. I thought it was the wrong decision since his first season, full season in charge. But Arona said he wants more attacking football. See, that to me implies that Liam Rossini's football is quite conservative. But if you actually look at the squad Liam Rossini had, when you had Fabio Carvalho, Liam Delap, Zavora, Yaden Philogene, Jean Michael Seri, just to name a few of them, there were some bloody good players in that whole side. So to not get them into the playoffs is quite questionable, I suppose. But at the same time, when you look at the playoffs, two of them were always going to be occupied by Leeds and Southampton. Once Ipswich were going to be top two, and then obviously it was a matter about. I've lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, and obviously it was a matter of competing for fifth and sixth spot. So I don't know. Liam Rossini, I think you could definitely do a lot worse. Wouldn't be my top choice, I have to admit. Mason George, would you take Steve Cooper? Yes, absolutely. He would be. Well, I've said all along I want Danny Roll, but that was because I'd written off Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper would be my number one choice, but he's not going to come here under this regime, and we won't pay him we won't pay him the salary that he rightly will want. So I don't. Think that. Sorry, Steve Cooper's not going to come here, unfortunately. Okay, look. Yorkshire Market, have you seen the trailer for the new Joker film? Yes, I have. I can't remember when that comes out, but the first Joker was really, really good. Mason George, cheers for the reassurance on Liam. He's a young and upcoming manager coach. Fingers crossed. Liam, I heard he's quite an attacking manager from what I've heard. Okay, there was another comment. Oh yeah, Jack Diamond. Jacob saying Jack Diamond could go to Hartlepool. Wouldn't that be a good if Hartlepool can convince him to drop down to National League level? Then I think that'd be exceptional signing for Hartlepool. In that league, he should tear it up really. Michael, you could come. Okay, Michael, I've just lost your comment again. Oh yeah, you could complete your manager videos that you started in lockdown. Your last manager video was Jack Ross. The last one I did was Phil. Well, kind of. The last one I did was Phil Parkinson in the Stay or Go video. Maybe it might be worth going. Maybe it might be looking back through the managers. So I think what we had, Phil Parkinson, Jack Ross, sorry, not Phil Parkinson, Phil Parkinson, Lee Johnson, Alex Neil, Tony Mowbray, and Michael Beale. Yeah, maybe it might be worth actually doing that. Maybe just to sort of continue the series and keep going into the summer. I'm still undecided whether I'm going to do England videos for the Euros, but because those videos don't tend to do as well as I would like. But I don't know. Maybe if enough people want me to do the England videos, I probably will. Let's have a look. Mason Jones, this on Rossini. Sometimes his football can get a bit boring because he likes to build up slow. Yorkshire Magnum Joker 2 comes out on the 4th of October this year. Fair enough. Mason Jones, Will Still's a really good manager. I reckon he would do well for you. Like I said with Will Still, I'm not 100% sure about Will Still, if I'm honest. But again, I think I'm basing that off the fact my world football knowledge isn't very good. Who's Sunderland's number one choice so far? I suspect it will be Will Still. That's how I've heard whispers that it's going to be Rennie Marich who's got the job, but that was before Will Still left Reims, I think. So that could throw a potential spanner in the works. Yorkshire Mountain, we aren't winning the Euros under Southgate. Jose Mourinho should be next England manager. I'm not just saying this, right? And I know some people might think I'm mental for this, but the person I would go for England manager, because I think if Gareth Southgate doesn't win the Euros, he's got to go. I personally would change it anyway, but I think Southgate has done really, really well to get us to where we are now. In terms, I know the previous standard has been so shocking that anything that wasn't terrible looks much better by comparison. But I think that's still what Southgate had to walk into and had to really sort of get a bit of trust back with the England team and got people a bit excited for tournament football again. So I do give him credit for that. But I think we're at the point now where we need to start seeing us winning things, because I think we have got, certainly going forward, I think we've got a team that's more than good enough to win things. If Southgate was to leave, my personal choice would be Eddie Howe. And I'm not just saying that. I was going to say that with Eddie Howe, I think because if you look, people can say, oh, the money he's had, blah, 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 blah. But if you actually look at some of the players that he's improved, just off the top of my head, Joe Linton, Callum Wilson, Jacob Murphy, he's had some really questionable decisions to have to do in terms of coming in from Steve Bruce. And I actually reckon that he would do a really good job with England, but that's just me. I have been Southgate out since losing to Hungary 4-0. Fair enough. Janet Atkinson, Michael, goals and pace and power get you promoted, so this squad was never going to be good enough this season. Sorry to disagree with the other facts, mate. That's your opinion, by the way. It's not facts. But in my opinion, I think this squad underachieved by finishing 16th. I definitely think going forward, we definitely need a bit more. We well need quite a lot more actually. We need a couple of good strikers. But the point, so this season, I agree, we were never going to get promoted. But next season, when the league is going to be weaker, I actually reckon that this squad should, with a good striker and a competent head coach, we should be pushing for top six at minimum. For me, I'm not having that this squad isn't good enough personally. That's your opinion, by the way, but I just disagree with it. Um, and by the way, for me, the fact is we have got some good players in that squad. Yorkshire Malcolm, if Eddie Howe leaves for England, David Moyes could be the next Newcastle manager. Oh my god, that actually would be kind of funny. But oh, and very quickly, who else was smirking that Amad Diallo managed to have a really good performance against the Mags the other night. Take out the fact it is against the Mags. Like I like Amad Diallo a lot, and I think Eric Ten Hag has finally woken up and actually realised he's actually quite a good player and should be playing more regularly than Anthony. And even Man United, and it's not just me. Man United fans have been saying this all season. Right, I'll quickly touch on the last two options because I'm not going to go through the academy lads, but the last two options of note, which are Mason Burstow and Callum Styles, or Harry Styles, I kept on calling him. We'll start with Mason Burstow. Mason Burstow is one that obviously he was signed on deadline day last summer, and it was weird because for me, Mason Burstow, I think at the start, I remember his first game away at QPR. Actually, I was at the QPR game, and I thought he looked really, really good. I thought he held the ball up well. He ran the channels down really well. But I don't know what it is. Maybe he's a confidence player, but all across the season, he's just been gash. He's been absolutely awful. And I don't really want to slate the lad because I still stand by the fact that if he went elsewhere, I actually reckon he might do a pretty good job. He might actually go somewhere else and succeed as a player. But at Sunderland, it was just never going to work. And for whatever so if Janet is on about players like Mason Burstow, then I completely agree. That is absolutely ridiculous. If you had players like that in, then we are never going to be good enough to get promoted, unfortunately. So it might be that you might need to drop back down to a League One level next season, or maybe go to a promoted championship to a club in a championship has just come up, like a Pompey or a Derby, or dare I say the winner of tomorrow's playoff final between Bolton and Oxford. But for Sunderland, it was just never going to work. And I think for him, for all parties, it was best for him to just go back to Chelsea and just draw a line under this. So yeah, no ill feel towards Mason Burstow because he seems a lovely lad, and I don't like slating people like that. But he was never going to be good enough, unfortunately. So best wishes to him. But yeah, wasn't going to work. And Callum Styles, which is the last one really of note to talk about. This one's the more interesting one. Callum Styles, for me, has been, what's the word? Bit indifferent. I think he's been pretty bang average. I've seen some people say Callum Styles has been terrible, which again I think is quite harsh. I disagree with that. I don't think he's been terrible. Do I think he's been particularly good? No, not really. I think I think a couple of the games, like when we played Leeds and West Brom away, when we played in the back three and he was deployed as a wing back, I thought he was pretty good. But when he's played as a solid left back in a back four, that's where I think he has actually struggled. Um, as a squad option, depending on what Barnsley want, and bear in mind what I've said here, as a squad option only, I wouldn't be against it. It depends entirely on how much Barnsley want, if he's willing to come back to be a squad option. And remember, if he came back, it might be that he would enable us to get to change to a back three formation a lot of the time. The problem I have is the fact that with Dennis Cirkin and Agi Alisi, both of whom I think are better players than Styles, but they never fit. That's the problem. And you can see what you want about Styles, but at least Styles is fit more regularly than them too. If Barnsley wanted between 500 grand to maybe 750 grand to a million at most, I wouldn't be against it as an option because he has played over 100 games at championship level, I think. So in that sense, it wouldn't be the end of the world to sign him. But if we're looking at him as a starting 11 player, regularly starting, then I wouldn't sign him. I think we need to get players in who are a bit better. I actually reckon, and I know Phil Smith of the Sunderland Echo disputed this, but I reckon that Callum Styles, he said Callum Styles was apparently someone Sunderland were looking at across multiple windows. But to me, I think Callum Styles was signed in as a stopgap, just plug the hole for 6 months until to get us to the summer. That's what I reckon Callum Styles was. And for a loan deal, it probably wouldn't have cost us very much. So Callum Styles has been all right. The one good moment I remember, I think he put in a good cross for Ekwa's goal at West Brom, the last goal we scored of the season, funnily enough, or depressingly enough. So yeah, Callum Styles, I wouldn't be against as a squad option, but signing to be a starting player, nah, not for me. I think as a squad option, yeah, starting 11, no, we need better. Let's have a look. Jacob, the atmosphere at Old Trafford is a library compared to the Stadium of Light. Well, that would say quite a lot because I think our atmosphere is like a library sometimes. In fact, more times than it isn't. But I think a lot of home grounds are like that. But we can be particularly bad at home in terms of making noise. But that's not an exclusive to Sunderland thing. That's a regular thing. Diallo was a brilliant player. I remember I was at to Sunderland when we drew 4-4. What a game, by the way, and he was quality. Let's just say I didn't enjoy letting in 4 goals, but yeah, that for a neutral who likes to watch goals, that was a really cracking game. Cracking game. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a roller coaster game, frustrating. Steve Bruce was rumored with you guys who used to manage us in the 2009-10 season, the first half of 2010-11 season. He was with us for those first 2 seasons, mate. It was the first half of the 2011-12 season. It was November 2011, I think he got sacked. Steve Bruce managed to get promoted. Yeah, fair enough. Have you guys seen that Norwich have sacked their manager? I don't think it's been officially confirmed unless Norwich have put a tweet out in the last few minutes. But it looks if it's not announced yet, it's all but set to be announced. He did pretty good to us before the end was terrible. Okay, this will be about Steve Bruce. Let's see. Has it been announced? We don't really have rivals. We like Middlesbrough. We're like Middlesbrough, LOL. We're just rivals with any of the Yorkshire teams. Fair enough. It got announced a couple of hours ago. Okay, fair enough, mate. Yorkshire Man says Mason Jones. So Leeds, Barnsley, Sheffield United, and Wednesday Doncaster and Rotherham. Yeah, you're not short of rivals, are you, Mason? If you're gonna go across with any club in Yorkshire, you missed out Huddersfield as well, by the way. But there you go. Right, let's have a look. Hey, Thane, Mr. Pessimistic's in the chat. Yeah, I hope you're all right, by the way. And York says, hello to stranger. Oh, Janet's back again. Ipswich conceded more goals than SCFC, but scored nearly 20 more goals. There's Janet, will get you off goals. Have I ever disputed that, though? Goals do get you up, but so do clean sheets. I think, again, a lot of people fall into the trap of underestimating how big clean sheets are. And if you want to look at another stat, Leeds and Leicester, let's get the championship table up now. I'm going to see if I can have a check at this. Championship table. Once it hurries up. Let's just point out about my point about clean sheets. The 2 best defensive teams finished in the top 3. One finished on 90 points, which is enough to get you automatic promotion most seasons, and the other one had 41 goals conceded and ended up winning the league. Leeds and Leicester. Goals conceded do matter as well. So yeah, there's amazing goals. Maybe not Doncaster, but yeah. The thing says, how's everything going? Yeah, I think everyone's just kind of welcoming Thane into the chat. But yeah, look, I think the retain list, to get back to it, I don't think there's anything that's totally surprising. I think really probably the biggest one that we've still got the option to retain Styles, I suppose. But in terms of Callum Styles, I've already said my piece on that. But what do you guys think of the retain list? Is there anything in there that particularly surprises you? Is there anything in there you particularly disagree with? Let's quit. I tell you what, let's quit. Hang on. Not bad apart from Sunderland. Still driving me crazy and the season's just ended. I know. I've seen you across other YouTube channels, mate. Sometimes your comments drive me crazy, but I do know that it's because you care about the club. But yeah, let's just say, right, head coach. Let's quickly talk about that. I've seen a lot of people, and I think Mackem Cabby, to be fair, did a couple of videos on the head coach thing. And actually, to be fair, there's a lot of things he says. He's a sound lad, by the way. We've had a good few conversations, but I tend to disagree with him more than I agree with him. But at the same time, there is one comment he made about the head coach I think is actually really bang on the money. I know a lot of people are quite, well, yeah, I'm going to say impatient because I'm impatient. I want to see us announce a new head coach. For me, I think the head coach thing, if it's announced in the next couple of weeks, and I'm talking by the end of this month or at latest the start of next month, or at very, very latest before the Euros, but even then I think that's a little bit too long. If it's announced in the next couple of weeks, I'm not going to complain too much with it, only because I think that you're not going to gain anything by having a head coach in now, as opposed to, say, the 31st of May. You know, because the players will be away on holiday. The only thing that a head coach can really do is maybe have a limited input into the transfer policy at Sunderland, and also maybe get a feel for around the place. But the players aren't going to be back until the back end of June, I think. Back end of June, start of July. So, in my own opinion, I think when it comes to the head coach, I'd like to see it. I don't mind waiting an extra couple of weeks. And to be fair, Mackem Cabby said this well, that maybe they just want to get it right. Maybe they want to get the head coach right. And whether people trust them to do that is another thing. And that potential mistrust is quite valid, actually, after the disaster of the Beale appointments. So after the Beale appointments, they cannot screw this next appointment up. They have to get it right. as I've said before, I know Janet obviously disagrees to an extent, and I do agree that we need to score more goals. But my point was going to be that I think this squad has underachieved by finishing 16th. I think this squad that we've got now, and especially if you get a good forward in, is much much better than finishing 16th in the championship. And I think a good head coach makes a massive difference. I think if you look at, again, Janet referred to Ipswich. Okay, Kieran McKenna, classic example. Kieran McKenna at Ipswich got Ipswich into the top two. Now, if you look at the squad that they've got, no one's going to convince me that that squad compared to the three relegated sides is nowhere near as good. Wes Burns, Connor Chaplin, just to name two. George Hurst is another one. You've got players there who are playing for them in League One and on occasion struggling in League One. But that's my point. A good manager, head coach makes a bloody big difference. If you want to look at another example, Danny Rowell at Sheffield Wednesday. People look at that Sheffield Wednesday squad and come back to me and tell me that that is a squad that is better than, say, Birmingham's, for example. It's not. It's not even anywhere close on paper. But my point is, a good head coach makes a big difference to a team. And by the way, I like Sheffield Wednesday. They absolutely deserve to stay up and deserve to beat us probably by more on the final day, truth be told. But I do think that there is definitely, I do think a good head coach is an imperative one. And it's a massive that we get it right. If we get it wrong, then prepare yourself for a world gate of criticism. And fair enough. I'm not going to complain with that. No worries, Mason. See you in a few minutes if I'm still here. If people are bored of me waffling along at this point. Yorkshire, I think Meander should go into the under 21s and we should sell him here. Bring in Morgan Whittaker and Smodix. I love your thinking, mate, with Morgan Whittaker and Smodix. The problem is both of them would probably cost 25 million combined, which we're not going to spend, unfortunately. The retain list is fine. The retain list is fine, providing they, for once, actually bring in a replacement upgrade and Evans. I do actually agree with that. We do need, like I've said before, even as someone who's sick of the experience thing, the midfield is the big exception to that. Probably up front as well, to be fair, but particularly in the midfield in the Evans role, we need experience. Right, here we go. I have a feeling this is coming from Thane I'm going to disagree with. So look, it's underachieved, but it still wasn't good enough to finish in the top 6. Before the season started, I had us to finish 7th. No teams get promoted without a proven goal scorer. Yeah, actually, to be fair, I don't disagree with that too much. You could say I think the only reason it wasn't good enough to finish in the top 6 is because of the fact that we didn't have a striker who was going to score goals or be a focal point. But that, for me, is the only reason that squad wasn't good enough to finish in the top 6. For me, it's definitely better than. For me, the squad we have about now should be finishing top 10. Right now, I think it should be a top 10 at minimum, top half squad. I think that I stand by this. The big reason that we have dropped like a stone that we have was because of the Michael Beale appointment. I know a lot of people point to Mike Dodds, but in my opinion, there was something Mike Dodds said that I think a lot of people overlook. Coming back after Beale was much more difficult than coming back after Mowbray, which for me, although obviously Dodds hasn't done himself any favours over the last couple of months, and don't get me wrong, I don't want Dodds as head coach, by the way. I'm not advocating that. But what I would say is I think it's the damage that Beale did. I think the damage that Beale did, I think, was really, really bad to the point where I think we were still recovering from it after he left. That, for me, is the reason we finished 16th, not because the squad isn't good. No Diallo, no proven striker, no experience in the centre part were the key factors. Yeah, I probably agree with that. I did underestimate how big a loss Diallo would be. No proven striker, I do get certainly saying that. And experience in the centre of the park, I think, is a big one. I think, like I said, I think we need that needs to be addressed this summer. It really does. I think apparently one player that I got that someone mentioned to me on Twitter in a direct message was Alan Brown, I believe. Alan Brown, who I think is was it Preston? I think he's leaving apparently for a new challenge. So he's probably available on a free. And the funny thing is, just because someone's available on a free doesn't mean they're automatically a crap player. It just means that there's some circumstances where they might just want a new challenge. They might just want to move to a different area. There's a load of things to consider. Yorkshire Maggot, Mike Dodds and Proctor should leave. Mike Dodds, I'm a bit indifferent towards. If he stayed, I wouldn't be too bothered. If he left, I wouldn't be too bothered. Proctor, yeah, probably. I'd agree with that. Then ME2 says, I don't want Rossini as the next manager. I'm not going to lie. I'm agreeing with you way too much here. Something's really wrong here. I wouldn't be against it. Having read a thread on Twitter about Liam Rossini, I wouldn't be against having him as next manager or head coach, but I do. There are options I would prefer ahead of him. Hello, Mason. You are back. Thane says, I know it's scary. Hey, guys, maybe I should try and do a live stream. I might see if I can try and get StreamYard to work on my channel and maybe get Thane involved. You can just do like a long chat of disagreeing for 2 hours. We'll see about that. But I imagine there's quite a few people that probably would want Thane to be on YouTube. So Thane, let me know if you're up for it. Maybe we could do a season review or something, or maybe do like a couple of, like we did last summer, where it's a season review looking back at the season and then looking towards the summer. Let's wait and see what happens with that one, because we need to try and fill content, damn it. But yeah, so okay, last question, because we'll start to wrap it up in the next 5-10 minutes. Who do people want as head coach? There's 45 people watching. Well, sorry, now 43. It fluctuates, but enough people. Put yourselves in the chat, in live chat. Who do you want as next head coach, while being realistic at the same time? I've said all along, for me, it was Danny Role, but given Sheffield Wednesday's, well, Chancery's ridiculous compensation, which he's entitled to put in, by the way, we're not getting Danny Role. If I had to pick, Danny Role would still be my. I would say that Danny Role was definitely my number one shout, but that's not happening. Jacob says Will Still. Yeah, that's who I think it will be. Again, I got told it was Rennie Marich a few weeks ago that's got the job, but that was before Still left Reims. So I think that was the week before Still left Reims, and apparently I've also heard Will Still's our number one choice. So if that's the case, then we'll wait and see. Let's have a look. So, hey, we've got a few more people coming in here now. Just to say, I'm starting to wrap it up. Maybe that's why, because you don't have to watch me waffle longer. Right. There's Liam Rossini. Right there. He's better than Beale. I do like him as a person, but he failed at Hull and was heavily backed and had a better squad than us. Fair comment. Niz Jones, I'm a Hull fan. I wouldn't say he's failed. I don't think Rossini failed in the sense that he went from got Hull from, what was it, 21st, I believe, when he took over midway through the first championship season for us and got them into 7th, because in theory, that's actually really, really good. But, and by the way, very quickly, I will say this, because this is something I think needs to be said. I know a lot of people go, just go down the Ipswich route, just go and spend all the money. I know that obviously Ipswich won't have spent loads on transfer fees, but in wages, I'd be astonished if Ipswich haven't spent a lot. But for every Ipswich, there's also a Hull, where you back them, get the big players in, and guess what? It doesn't work. So you have to have a bit of strategy to it. But I think Sunderland are at the point now where I'm all for advocating watching what we spend. But I think because we've had 2 seasons in the Championship now, I think we have to start seeing more progression, start seeing a bit more. We have to start seeing a bit more progression, a bit more ambition, I think. And I get sick of hearing the word ambition, but I actually reckon that I think in this case it's quite valid. Oh, Stephen Enzel, Peter Pan is just going to be another yes, missing for Speakman anyway. I think you mean yes, man. Yeah, well, we'll see about that one. Like I keep on saying to you, Stephen, I think more people need to be looking at KLD and not just look at Christian Speakman. Remember, Buck's supposed to stop with the ownership, so I do think we need to remember that now. But I'm not denying Speakman has definitely dropped a ball or two in the appointment of Beale and the last couple of windows. Let's have a look. Jam Sarni, oh, hey, Joel's in there. I'd take Michael Bowers as next head coach. Heard we can get him on a free. Now, if you want to get relegated to League One and not score any goals, then I'd be the perfect candidate for you. Yorkshire, my second choice would be Liam Rossini because of how he has done this season. Things, yeah, I'd be open to it, but like you said, StreamYard would be the better option. I need to try and figure out how to use StreamYard. I need to get with the times, don't I, really? Jokes, yeah, Jigsy, yeah, Jam Sardi, yes, lad. Sorry, the great. Sorry, Joel, I'm not going to get that out of my head. That impression of Grayson was too funny. Brandon Adamson, Liam Rossini or Chef Wed's manager? Yeah, fair enough. Mason Jones, the thing with Danny Role, I've heard, is he doesn't play good football, but he gets the job done, and that's what matters, to be fair. If you look at, we've seen firsthand now with Sheffield Wednesday's game at Sunderland, where if you look at Sheffield Wednesday's first goal, of course, I'm going to criticise the defending because I thought it was atrocious, but from Sheffield Wednesday's point of view, their first goal wasn't too dissimilar. It wasn't as good, but it wasn't too dissimilar to the goal we scored at Reading under Tony Mowbray with the one that Jack Clark finished off. So I actually think that Danny Role apparently has got Chef Wed playing some good football with an extremely limited set of players. So that's, again, it comes back to my point. The head coach does make a big difference. Then Bo Svensson would be my preferred choice. Did a decent job at Mines. Yeah, I mean, I've heard his name come into the mix. The one thing is for certain, though, I think certainly with the head coach over the next couple of weeks, ideally we want someone appointed and then we can move on and start preparing for next season. I think as well, a lot of it is down to the fact that while we don't have a head coach, we're still hanging in the thread of last season just finishing, where last season was just the first half of the season I thought was pretty good up until Beale's appointment. I thought the season was pretty good, but then after that point, it was just like a 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 at very best. So I actually reckon that we're still looming in the depths of last season, if you like. So once we get a head coach, I think that's a sign of starting to move around and starting to move away from it, shall we say. Stephen, would you take Kevin Phillips did well at South Shields at Hartlepool? No. Personally, I wouldn't. Well, hang on. Do you mean as a coach or do you mean as a head coach? As a coach, possibly. As a head coach, no. Personally, but again, no, Stephen's a canny lad. Sorry, Stephen. I'm just reminded of all the shenanigans you were going in town when you thought everybody was Gary Bennett after the Blackburn game. It was funny. See, I told you I waffled to myself. I'm insane. Huddersfield Town Fan TV. Hello, mate. How are you doing? Commiserations on relegation. Oh yeah, what do you actually? I'll ask you then. What do you think about Michael Duff, mate? Because he's just been confirmed as Huddersfield's new manager. And how do you feel about going into League One? Let's just say good luck. Let's just say good luck about having teams wanting to beat you because it's not a good league. But then Super Kev wouldn't take the job anyway because there's another one's having digs at the model. Then to be honest, like I said to Stephen, personally honest, I don't want Kevin Phillips anyway, so I'm not bothered about that. I do get the affection that people have for Kevin Phillips as a player, but I think that's one based on romanticism rather than logic. Personally, I'm not saying there's no logic to the Kevin Phillips appointment because there might be some logic, but to me, it's more leaned on romanticising it rather than the logic. It's the same thing with Jermaine Defoe, to be honest. Kevin Ball as well. Maybe Kevin Phillips if Kevin Ball was his number 2, possibly, but I just don't think there's much substance to that, if I'm honest. But again, I wasn't into football when Kevin Phillips was playing for Sunderland, so I've probably got more of a I've probably got a bit more of a cynical view on Kevin Phillips personally, and probably the same with Roy Keane. Let's have a look. Angie Smith, Steve Cooper or Danny Rule. I'm personally not a fan of having a head coach with no experience in the Championship. Fair comment. I suppose the caveat is that Danny Rule had no experience. Kieran McKenna, before he went to Ipswich, had no experience. But I suppose with McKenna, it was a bit different in that he was with an Ipswich side that was probably going to win more games in League One. So it was easier to find a balance and be able to retain them. In other words, it was probably easier to get the players on side when you're winning more games in a terrible division. Janelle's back again. The head coach will be irrelevant. If you don't get a good budget, we won't progress. Simple. Disagree. Head coach makes a massive difference. Again, Danny Role, Kieran McKenna, Cifuentes at QPR. And you can't tell me... Kieran McKenna, fair enough, but Danny Role and Cifuentes haven't had massive budgets at all, and both of them have managed to succeed. I do get your point about the budget, mind. We do need to have a bit more money to spend, but I disagree completely when you say that it's irrelevant. I'm sorry, it's just not. I was always been entitled to your opinion, but I disagree with it. Mark Connors, as a Sunderland fan, the club is ran by dickheads who haven't got a clue. We'll never get to the Prem under this ownership. If we don't start put it this way, this season, this is why I've said this summer is regime defining for them. This is why I've said that this summer and this next season is regime defining for them. I stand by the point that I think Speakman gets too much of the criticism on his own, because some people have said in the past, Stuart Harvey deserves praise when we sign the good players, but then Stuart Harvey doesn't deserve a mention when the players are supposed to be bad. That makes no point. That makes no sense. You can't just want to praise Stuart Harvey when the signings have gone well and ignore Speakman and then just mention Speakman when the signings are meant to be bad. That's not how it works. That's completely contradictory. But what my point was, Speakman is under pressure and rightly so. KLD, for me, Thane will know this. I've not been a big fan of KLD for some time, and we need to start seeing some signs that he actually wants to take us forward. But yeah, so I think this is regime defining. If next season we are not at least pushing, and I mean seriously pushing for a playoff place at the bare minimum, then for me, the whole lot of them can go. Obviously, again, it depends on the circumstances in the next year. But as of right now, if we're not progressing next year, then, you're going to find it very hard to find people to defend them too much. Then says, I don't think still a Heckingbottom will happen because I've heard they've both turned us down. That would be pretty concerning if both of them have turned us down. Still, I haven't heard us turned us down, if I'm honest. I've heard Heckingbottom has, but I haven't heard Will Still has. But we never know. Then says, that's a good point, though. Yes, a good manager makes a difference, but without spending well and showing ambition, we won't go up or finish in the top 6. Simple as. Again, it depends. Things did not that. A good manager or a good head coach makes a difference. This is where I've said again, it entirely depends, because for me, if you look at the squad we've probably got, I'd say 7 players at least 7 players who are worth quite a bit of money. And this is where I think the funds are going to come from. And again, this is where it comes back down to KLD here. Not Speakman, not Harvey, KLD. It comes back down to him and going that the money, external funding, hasn't been made available. What I was going to say, well, Brandon says, have you seen the rumours of Joe linked with Dortmund? Probably just fake rumours, but you never know. It's from Football Insider, which hasn't got a very good reputation. Let's put it that way. I think it was Football Insider that said that Ross Stewart's move to Southampton was off about 5 times on deadline day, when it ended up not being the case at all. But it is an interesting point. Clark, Neil, Ballard, Patterson, Ekwa, yes, Ekwa, believe it or not, despite the season he's had, Hume and Job. They're all worth quite a bit of money. Now, the problem I've got is I've accepted that Clark will go this summer. That's fine. That's fine as long as you then reinvest it. And people who say we definitely won't don't know that for sure. We don't know for sure that we won't reinvest it. We will not find that out until the end of this transfer window coming up, whether we have or not. And probably another one might end up going. But here's my point. If you're going to sell Clark plus another potential asset, you can't sell anybody else. You can't sell anyone else. Thank you very much, Saying good for the Star Wars reference. That's nice. Anyway, I'm going to go now, mate. Catch you later. Good luck with your StreamYard training, my young Padawan. I like it. I like it, Qui-Gon Jinn. But my point is, if you're going to sell a couple of the assets, you can't sell any more than 2 because you need continuity within the squad, and you need to get a good amount of money to be able to reinvest into the playing squad. Jamie says, Theathane, thank you very much. Jabba Dabba Doo. Even though you're a Newcastle fan, mate, that is quite a funny name, I must admit. Come on, Sunderland, we miss our derby matches. If we don't show any ambition, mate, we're not getting to the Prem anytime soon. Let's have a look. Stephen says, where's the £20 million loan gone? In my back pocket. Brendan Adamson, I think Ballard is a must keep. Well, that was going to be my point. Clark, we accept Clark's gone, right? If that happens, then what I would say is Neil and Ballard and Pato have to be kept on. No excuses. Because if you're asking me, if you're going to sell 2 assets, you get a good amount of money, but you need to keep everyone else for the sake of getting continuity. I look back at what Coventry did last summer when they sold Gyökeres and Hamer. And fair enough, they had to happen because I think both of them had a year left on their deals. And they got about £35 million for the pair, I think. But the point was, they had to sign pretty much a new squad, or at least a vast number of players, and had to really spend the first half of the season gelling in order for it to work. We need to make sure that we need to do the least amount of gelling together as possible. So we'll wait and see. Leighton Magnus says, who could replace Clark without stupid wages? Yeah, well, absolutely. But see, my issue is, I'll give you an example. The player I would sign is Liam Miller, who has been on loan at Preston last season and is back to Basel, who apparently want to get rid of him, and he apparently wants to go. Now, Liam Miller, is he as good as Jack Clark? Obviously not. Of course he's not. But we have to remember, just because someone's not on the level that Clark is now, who's clearly above the championship, doesn't mean they can't contribute. It doesn't mean that they are crap. I think, and I hope people don't fall into the trap of going, oh, they're not Clark's level, so therefore they're crap. Because that's not how it works for me. Liam Miller has got double figures. I think he's got 10 goal contributions across last season. And let's be honest, yes, Preston finished way above us, but is Preston's squad really better than ours? I don't think it is. Even with the striker issue, I don't think Preston's team's better than ours. Liam Miller, and I think with all due respect to Preston, we should be able to out-compete them or outmatch them in terms of money. So if Liam Miller, now this is the big thing. If you sign Liam Miller, for example, 1 year left on his contract, and apparently Barca want to get rid, you could get him for £2, £3, £4 million. Easily, I think. At most up to 5. But the point is, if you get him, you then have to get a striker who is going to be someone who will get goals, who will be a focal point, who will bring others into play, who will get at least 10 to 15 goals, if you know what I mean. If you get that, you're replacing Clark's goals and potentially adding it through other areas. Now, to back onto the point about Brandon Mamson about the Job link. Now, I listened to the Roker Report podcast, and very good pod, by the way. I highly recommend you check it out. But one point they did make, which I didn't think much of at first, but the more I've thought about it, it makes sense. They suggested, and I don't know if it's their opinion, but they suggested it as a possibility that the reason that Job has been playing so often, despite how clearly knackered he was at the end of the season, was the fact that we could make a quick profit on him in the summer. Now, the Football Insider link, again, take it with a pinch of salt, whatever you want to say. They've said that apparently it's £12 million that we're apparently looking at, £8 million plus up to 12 million in add-ons or whatever it is. It wouldn't surprise me if Sunderland sold Job this summer to make a quick profit. Now, the question is, Job, I think he's obviously got 7 goals in his first full season in senior football. Hasn't even turned 19 yet. And the name Bellingham will command a bigger fee. It's just as simple as that. Me personally, I would keep Job another season. But if you got a big bid, and I'm talking between 10 to 15 million pounds here, then I would be saying I wouldn't be against selling him, because it means that the likes of Chris Rigg, if he signs a new deal, we don't know whether he will or won't yet at this point, obviously, but it does. But if Chris Rigg is signing a new deal, then that means that he will have a clear pathway into being the number 10 slot next season, or even Adil Aushish, who I actually reckon. Aushish, I think, has got a part to play next season, because there'll be some fans that think there isn't much talent there, but I disagree with that. I think there is talent in Aushish, and I think again, I keep repeating myself, but with the right head coach, I do think he will have a good season next year if he's managed correctly. Oh God, sorry guys, I can't believe there's still a number of you watching after about 50 minutes. Bloody hell, fair play to you. To quickly answer Stephen's question, where's the £20 million loan gone? I'll answer it seriously. I think with the loan deal, the £20 million loan. Now, if we're loaning this money in, this is what I've been told could be a possibility for it. If, say, you get 20 million for Clark, I think that's too low, but let's say it's 20 million. Tottenham get a quarter of that, so you get 15 of that there. Then say you raise the other 5 million. Let's pretend Joe Bellingham, right? Okay, let's say you sell Jack Clark and Joe Bellingham. The £20 million loan, I've heard, could be used right here, right now, with the idea of next season, but the fees you get for Bellingham and, say, Clark, or even Echo, whatever it is, if you get £20 million in sales this summer, you're not going to get it all up front. It's going to be in instalments. So someone suggested to me that the way it might work is that money that you get from the instalments of the sales pays the loan back over the next few years. Now, that means, put that aside, the loan money is there for us to use right now. I hope that makes sense. If that's how the loan is getting used, then I don't mind as much that we are getting a £20 million loan. But again, it only depends if we're using it that way. But we'll have to wait and see with the loan where it's come from. Put it this way, there's going to be a lot of interest in where that's gone, and rightly so. Danny called Tom Watson. Hey, mate, all right. Jamie, I think Clark may struggle and be benched in the Prem. Possibly. The thing I would look at it is, yes, he struggled against Newcastle, but what I would say is that Newcastle, as much as it pains me to admit it, Job will probably love it. Job of the heart, sorry, couldn't resist. He'll probably love this, but I hate the fact Newcastle are where they are. But at the same time, Newcastle are one of the better teams in the Premier League. If you look at it, I would compare it more accurately to how he did against Fulham last season, or just over a year ago. You can say, oh, Fulham didn't play the strongest team. Yeah, but the team that they still played would have been better than anything Clark was coming up against at championship level. So for me, Clark actually didn't look out of place, not just once, but twice against Fulham. So I think it all depends. I do think there will be interest in Clark. My personal preference is probably that he goes abroad, just so it's less likely he's going to play against us in the future. But yeah, I do get your point. We don't know how Clark's going to do yet. He hasn't had a full season of Premier League football, but I think he's at the point now where I think he deserves a crack at the Premier League. And if he leaves respectfully, then and we get a good enough fee, then I've got no problem with that. Ryan Amson, that wouldn't surprise. Oh, this is about the selling Job thing with Rigg in mind. What is it? That wouldn't surprise me either. I bet they're thinking of doing it with Rigg as well, possibly. Yorkshire, I can't see Bellingham leaving, to be fair. There's more chance of Middlesbrough winning a trophy. Oh, God. We'll wait and see. And Jamie, sorry, Jamie, I'm going to not try and pronounce your surname because I'll end up butchering it. It's clear we have no money. Is KLD a fake billionaire? I'm all for running the club sustainably, but there has been times where I think KLD probably has underfunded in a lot of ways. I think we are starting to see small developments off the pitch, but for me, these things should have happened really a year ago at least. But I understood not doing it in League One because we had to get out of League One at all costs because the club died on its knees when we were in that division. I know being bottom half championship isn't good enough, but like it's a lot better than being in what League One was. But yeah, I do get your point. Like I think I understood in League One and even in the first half of the championship season when we didn't know if we were going to be safe in the championship first before starting to put money and investment into the off the pitch stuff. But once it became clear we were going to be all right, maybe KLD has started to put more money into it. We don't know, but suffice to say, KLD's got a big period coming up for his ownership. And I think as well, a lot of people can't forget the Black Cats Bar thing, which I can't forget and forgive that. That was just absolutely ridiculous. The other way around, I mean, first of all, Newcastle wouldn't be stupid enough to do that. But if they were stupid in an alternate universe, they got a big brain fart and decided to do that, there'd be hell on, and rightly so. So I think KLD I think there's a lot of trust that needs to be built back. Let's put it that way. Right, guys, I think I'm going to end it there because I'm amazed that there's enough of you watching at this point. And I did say it was going to be the retain list, but I've ended up going into a random tangent. So sorry about that. But yeah, let me know. Let me know about content in the future. Like I said, I would love to see very quickly. Jacob's comment. What are your thoughts on David Bruce? Already seems to be doing better than Steve Davison was capable of. Um, Again, nothing against Steve Davison, but that was the right call to let him go, I think. But what I would say is, what do people think? Would you like to see a video of me doing the five players thing again, where I would let some five players I've done something to let go, and or five players that I would like someone to sign this summer? I think I might end up doing them, but I just want to see if people would be interested. But yeah, thanks very much for everybody who's watching it. It staggers me that people end up watching, and there's people in the chat who obviously disagree with me. But like I said, no problem with disagreeing as long as it's respectful about it. Andrew Smith says, hopefully. Brandon, have a nice day, fella. Hopefully catch you in your next stream. Yeah, well, maybe I might do streams across the summer just to sort of see, just to see what the state of plays is. If something big happens, I might do, like, say, when the next head coach is finally appointed, then I'll be able to do something on that, and then we'll see what happens from there. But anyway, guys, thanks ever so much for watching. Take care, and likewise yourself, Jacob and Jamie, and Brandon and Angie. Thanks very much. Like I said, Sunderland aren't playing this weekend, so let's see if we can enjoy the playoff final between Bolton and Oxford tomorrow, and Southampton West Brom tonight. Border Riva, the good chat. Greetings from South Germany. Goodness me, someone from Germany's watching me stream. Thanks very much. Take care, all you lovely lot. Enjoy your weekend, whatever you have planned to do. Make sure you and your loved ones are all right. And yeah, I guess we'll see what happens in the near future. But as I said, big summer coming up. I'll do streams across the summer and videos across the summer about what I want to do. And let me know let me know in the comments below, not in the chat, but in the comments below. Would you want me to do England videos? We'll wait and see what happens. Cheers yourself, Leighton. Sorry. Anyway, guys, I'll end the stream there. Take care, you lovely lot. Stay safe. And if you're not a regular subscriber and you're watching the video, hit the subscribe button. As Sean says, free, doesn't cost a penny, and it would mean a lot. Happy weekend, everyone. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.